You want to explain why you're lurking around a vehicle like this, boy?
Excuse me? I'm unlocking my own car. Step back.
Drop the attitude immediately before I faceplant you on the concrete.
Listen closely. You really need to run these plates right now.
I'm done asking. Hands on the hood or you riding cuffs?
Put a hand on me. You lose that badge today.
Hands on the hood. Now. Nathan Prescott's voice hit like a clipped command over traffic noise, the kind meant to make a stranger shrink. Rashad Adams froze beside a gray sedan at pump 3. His key fob still in his hand, his jaw tight. Prescott stepped closer, body-angled hand hovering at his belt like the decision was already made. You've been circling this car. That's suspicious. Within days, that claim would collapse, and people higher up would have to answer for how fast it turned into a detention. Source. Rashad's swallowed throat suddenly dry and forced his voice down into something steady. What's the reason for this? He said. This is my vehicle. He lifted the fob a few inches like proof should be enough. Prescott didn't look at it. He looked at Rashad's face, then his hands, then back to the door handle as if the car itself was the problem. Don't get smart, Prescott snapped. Fix your attitude before I put you on the ground. The threat landed with the casual confidence of someone used to no consequences. Source. Rashad's shoulders tightened under his hoodie. He kept his feet planted because backing away felt like conceding guilt, and because his trunk was open, his work bag visible. His responsibility sitting right there in the daylight. Am I free to leave? He asked. Or are you detaining me? His fingers trembled once then stilled around the fob. Prescott's stare sharpened at the word detaining, like Rashad had spoken a forbidden language. Source. This isn't a debate, Prescott said. Hands on the hood. A second voice crackled faintly from Prescott's shoulder radio. Another officer somewhere out of frame pushing for a plate check, impatient as if the decision had already been logged in their minds. Rashad's eyes flicked toward the store windows, the parked cars, the ordinary people who could become witnesses or could become nothing at all. What Prescott didn't know was that more than one phone was already rising quietly at chest height. Source. A woman pumping gas 2 islands over paused nozzle still in her hand. A rideshare driver leaned back against his car squinting. A man in a windbreaker by the trash can stopped mid-step. The air had that split-second tension where nobody wants to be first to interfere until someone is. Rashad heard a calm voice, not loud, just steady. Hey, the woman said, eyes on Prescott's hands. He's not doing anything. He's standing right there. Prescott didn't acknowledge her. You heard me, he said to Rashad, voice sharpened for compliance. Rashad kept his palms visible open at chest level. I'm not resisting, he said. I'm asking the reason. I do not consent to any search. The phrases came out practiced not theatrical, like someone who'd learned them the hard way. Prescott's nostrils flared, and for a moment it looked like he took the words personally. Source. Rashad's phone buzzed once in his pocket work channel. He didn't reach for it. He kept his hands visible because he'd seen how quickly a reach became a story. He shifted one foot half a step just enough to keep the hood between his body and Prescott's hands if Prescott lunged. Request a supervisor, Rashad said. Right now. Prescott's reply came fast, almost eager. Here's what's going to happen, Prescott said. You're going to do what I say, and then we'll talk. It was the tone of someone who believed the order itself was the justification. Then he dropped the line, short, clean, captionable, the kind of sentence that sounds like policy even when it isn't. You don't set the standards out here. I do. The rideshare driver's eyebrows lifted like he'd just heard the quiet part out loud. The woman with the nozzle took a step closer, not into Prescott's space, but into the moment. SE05 was forming without anyone naming it, a witness circle, phones out calm narration pressure without chaos. Rashad's jaw clenched. Heat rose in his face, that familiar burn of being accused of something he didn't do. He looked past Prescott toward the store door where a clerk could see everything through the glass. I'm on duty, Rashad said carefully. I'm working. He didn't say for who. Not yet. Because once you say it, you can't take it back, and because some people hear authority and respond with more aggression, not less. Prescott heard only the pushback. On duty, where Prescott said, around cars playing with locks, his gaze flicked to Rashad's hand again, the fob. Keep that hand still. Put it down. Rashad lowered the fob slowly and set it on the hood the way you'd set down something fragile. Please state the reason, he said again. I'm requesting a supervisor. His voice stayed level, but his throat felt tight. The woman pumping gas spoke up still calm. He asked you why, she said. Just tell him why. Prescott's radio crackled again. The audio clipped in and out for a second bad reception that swallowed half a word and made Prescott tilt his head irritated. It was a small imperfection, but it changed his mood. He pressed his shoulder into the radio, listening harder, then snapped copy to someone unseen. The delay gave the moment a weird pause, like the scene itself was buffering. Prescott stepped closer anyway. Last warning, he said. Attitude or concrete? Rashad's eyes went cold for a beat. He lifted his chin not in defiance, but in clarity. If you put hands on me without cause, he said you're going to have a problem you can't talk your way out of. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't move toward Prescott. He just said it like someone reading a forecast. Prescott latched onto that instantly. You threatening me? He said louder now so everyone could hear. You threatening an officer? The words carried the shape of a justification being built in real time. A bystander young guy in a hoodie misread the whole thing exactly the way bias trains people to. Bro, just do what he says, the kid called out. Why you making it hard? It wasn't malicious. Just reflex SF2 in motion, the public accidentally validating the authorities' narrative. Rashad didn't look at him. He looked at Prescott. I'm not resisting, he said. I'm asking if I'm free to leave. Prescott's face hardened at the calm. Turn around, he ordered. Hands on the hood. Now! And he reached just a quick grab toward Rashad's wrist, the point of no return line crossing in a single motion. Phones rose higher. The woman said it louder, now still controlled. He's not resisting. Your hands are on him. Rashad's muscles went rigid, not to fight, but to keep balance. He felt the instinct to jerk away to protect his wrist, to reclaim his space. He didn't. He opened his hand and let Prescott move it, because the whole country had seen what happens when the story becomes. He pulled away. His voice came out tight. I'm not resisting, he repeated. I'm requesting a supervisor. Please. Prescott pulled Rashad's arm toward the hood, pressing him forward enough to make the metal cold through fabric. You want to play lawyer? Prescott said we can do it in cuffs. He shifted his weight like he was about to pin Rashad properly. This is the moment it turned. The gas station door banged open. The clerk, middle-aged, tired eyes, name tag, crooked, stepped outside with his phone already recording. Officer, the clerk called, not yelling, but loud enough. We got cameras. What's going on? Prescott didn't answer him. He kept his focus on Rashad like the crowd was background noise. That refusal was the dual viral spark in action, DV1 selective proof rejection, right in front of witnesses. Everyone could feel it. Verification was available, and Prescott was choosing not to take it. Rashad's mouth went dry. He could feel his pulse in his ears. He thought about the work bag in the trunk, the folder inside it, the reason he was even here. He wasn't buying snacks. He wasn't killing time. He'd stopped because his surveillance vehicle needed a quick top-off, and because his call notes had to be sent before the next contact window closed. The case didn't pause because a cop wanted to prove a point. Backstory came in like a flash of pressure behind his ribs. Rashad wasn't new to long days. He'd been the guy who took the late shift so his sister could keep her daycare hours. The guy who always had an extra charger in his glove box and a clean button-down folded tight in a garment sleeve. His reputation, even outside his unit, was simple, reliable, quiet. No drama, the one who showed up early and left last when paperwork needed to be airtight. Dispatch, I need a supervisor, Rashad said, turning his head just enough to project his voice toward Prescott's radio. Please log that I'm requesting one. His cheek hovered inches above the hood. He stared at his own reflection in the paint, warped and furious. Prescott's hand tightened. You don't talk to my radio, Prescott hissed. You don't run the show. The woman stepped closer now, fully in the witness circle, holding her phone steady with both hands. He's asking for a supervisor, she said as if narrating for a report. You haven't told him why. The rideshare driver added his own calm line. You said he was circling the car, he said. He's got the keys. Check it. Prescott finally glanced towards the sedan's driver door, like the idea annoyed him. Then he did something small, but telling he didn't check the door handle, didn't ask to see registration, didn't ask for the fob again. He reached for his cuffs. The metallic click was a sound that changes people's breathing. Rashad felt his stomach drop. This was the near loss shaping up fast, a public cuffing at a gas station forecourt, a quick resisting narrative, a night in a holding cell, a case compromised because the wrong officer decided to flex. Rashad's voice went lower. I am not resisting, he said. I do not consent. I want a supervisor. He turned his head, slightly more eyes cutting to the clerk. Call your manager, Rashad said. Now. The clerk hesitated, one heartbeat of fear, and then moved backing toward the door with his phone still up. I'm calling, he said. I'm calling. That hesitation mattered. It was the second imperfection of the scene human this time. It bought Prescott a few more seconds to escalate. Prescott hooked Rashad's wrist with one cuff. Rashad's breath hitched. The woman's voice sharpened. "He's cuffing him," she said, not screaming, but making sure the words existed in the air. "He's cuffing him." And then a black SUV rolled in fast clean, unmarked, the kind of vehicle that looked like nothing and like everything at once. It pulled up near the curb cut with a controlled stop, not dramatic, just precise. A man stepped out, scanning the scene the way professionals scan, not for spectacle, for risk. "Rashad," the man called. "Not sir. Not hey you." His tone carried familiarity and authority. "You good?" Rashad's eyes flicked up. Relief hit like a physical wave, and then flattened instantly into caution because relief can make you careless, and this wasn't over. "I'm being detained," Rashad said, voice controlled. "Supervisor requested." The newcomer walked closer, hands, visible posture neutral. "Officer," he said to Prescott, "step back. That's my agent." Prescott's head snapped around. "You're what?" he barked. "My agent," the man repeated. He didn't flash anything dramatically. He didn't reach into his jacket fast. He spoke like this wasn't a debate. "He's on duty." Prescott's face tightened with disbelief, then irritation, then something like panic trying to hide behind anger. Everyone's something, Prescott said. He was messing with a car. "It's his car," the rideshare driver said. The woman echoed, "He has the keys." Prescott didn't look at them. He stared at the newcomer, trying to decide whether this was real or another challenge to his control. "You got ID," Prescott demanded. The newcomer nodded once. "We can do that safely," he said. "But you're not cuffing him over a hunch." Prescott lifted his radio. "I need units," he said, voice clipped. "Possible impersonation." "Stop!" the newcomer said, louder now, and the firmness in that single word made even the bystanders go still. "Don't compound it." Rashad felt the cuff bite his wrist. His hand stayed open. "I'm not resisting," he said again, quieter now, more for the record than for Prescott. The woman's phone remained steady, capturing every beat. Inside the store, the clerk returned with someone on speakerphone, an operations manager voice tinny through the phone's small speaker. The manager's words were half drowned by a passing car and the hiss of fuel, another little imperfection that caused a consequence the first time she spoke. Prescott misheard and stepped forward like he'd been challenged again. "I'm the operations manager," the voice repeated louder. "Officer, what is the reason you're detaining a customer on our property?" Prescott snapped. "He's suspicious. He asked you the reason," the woman said, calm as a metronome. "You didn't say." The newcomer, Rashad's colleague, kept his stance measured. "Let's keep it simple," he said. "Call your supervisor. We'll wait, but you need to take that cuff off. Now." Prescott looked around like he'd just realized the crowd was larger than he'd felt. Phones, faces, stillness. He tried to recover command voice. "Everyone step back," he ordered. "This is an investigation." Nobody moved much because nobody was in his space. They were just there. Witnesses, presence, pressure. Officer Rashad said, voice steady but tight, "Please state the reason. Am I free to leave?" Prescott's eyes flicked to Rashad's wrist and the cuff still hanging half closed. He didn't answer the question. Instead, he tried to rewrite the scene. "You can't talk to me like that," he said, tone policing like it was law. "Your attitude is the problem." The viral quote, the one Prescott had thrown out like a crown, hung in the air now. "You don't set the standards out here. I do." The newcomer didn't raise his voice. "That's not how this works," he said. "And you know it." A patrol sergeant finally arrived, marked unit, pulling up tires, crunching over the forecourt edge. Sergeant Victoria Blackwell stepped out, scanning quickly Prescott's posture, Rashad's position, the cuff, the phones, the unmarked SUV, the clerk's phone on speaker, the woman's steady recording stance. Leadership intercept began. SE-05, still holding the circle, but now a person with leverage had entered. Blackwell's voice was measured command without show. "Nathan," she said, "hands off. Right now." Prescott straightened like he'd been caught mid-act. "Sarge, I saw the cuff Blackwell cut in. Take it off." Then she looked at Rashad, eyes steady. "Sir, are you injured?" Rashad flexed his wrist carefully. "I'm okay," he said. "I'm not resisting. I requested a supervisor. I'm asking the reason for detention." Blackwell nodded, once then turned to Prescott. "What's the reason?" she asked, and this time it wasn't rhetorical. Prescott's mouth opened, then closed. He glanced at the sedan, then at the fob still on the hood, then at the crowd like their eyes were weight. "He was around the car," Prescott said. "He gave me attitude." Blackwell's face didn't change, but something in her gaze sharpened. "That's not a reason," she said. "That's a feeling." She stepped closer to the hood and picked up the fob with 2 fingers like it was evidence of how unnecessary this had become. Whose car is it? It's mine, Rashad said. I can show you. Blackwell held up a hand. We'll verify, she said. Then documentary anchor number 1 inside the active scene, plain and simple. She tapped Prescott's body camera with 1 finger and said, Your body-worn camera is recording this, correct? Prescott's jaw tightened. Yes, he said. Source. Blackwell's eyes moved to the unmarked SUV and the colleague who'd called Rashad agent. And you are, she asked. Federal law enforcement, the colleague said. Supervisor contact available. We can verify identity safely. Prescott scoffed, trying to claw back the narrative. Anyone can say that. Blackwell didn't take the bait. She turned slightly, addressing the bystanders without losing command. Everyone recording keep distance, she said. Thank you for staying calm. The woman nodded without lowering her phone. Then Blackwell spoke to the clerk. Ma'am, she said, nodding at the speakerphone. Who am I speaking with? Operations manager, the voice said. We need names and badge numbers for our incident file. Prescott's face twitched at incident file. That sounded like consequences. Blackwell exhaled through her nose once the tiniest sign of irritation. You'll have them, she said. Right now we're going to de-escalate and verify. She turned back to Prescott. Remove the cuff completely. Prescott's fingers fumbled once, small but visible. The metal clicked open. Rashad's wrist sprang free. He didn't rub it dramatically. He just rolled it once, slow feeling the ache. The woman's phone stayed locked on Prescott's hands. Blackwell stepped between Prescott and Rashad in a way that ended the physical threat without making it a show. Sir, she said to Rashad, you are not under arrest. You are being asked to remain while we verify identity due to the confusion. You can decline, but I'm asking for a few minutes. Rashad nodded slightly. I'll remain, he said, but I want it documented that I did not consent to search, and that I requested supervision before cuffs were applied. Blackwell's gaze held on him for a beat, respect recognizing discipline. Understood, she said. Prescott tried one more time. Sarge, he threatened me, he said, pointing at Rashad like the cuff had been justified by words. Rashad looked at Blackwell, then back at Prescott. His voice was quiet and deadly precise. I said if you touch me without cause, you'll have a problem, he said. That's not a threat. That's a fact. Blackwell's eyes narrowed. We're going to hear it on camera, she said, and that ended the argument. The witness circle held steady through the verification. Blackwell had Prescott step aside, away from Rashad's personal space. She spoke low with the federal colleague, then used her radio to contact her watch commander. Prescott paced, once short steps, frustration leaking through his posture. The bystander kid who told Rashad to comply shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting like he could feel his own role in the story changing. Backstory insert 2 landed in a small human detail. Rashad's work phone buzzed again, and he still didn't reach for it. He kept his hands visible because professionalism wasn't just a job skill, it was survival. He'd trained himself to let messages wait when the wrong movement could be misread, and he hated that he had to. Blackwell returned, voice crisp. Rashad Adams, she said, reading from information given by Rashad, and confirmed through appropriate channels without exposing sensitive details. You are who you say you are. Her eyes flicked to Prescott. And you were on duty. That was the freeze moment. The forecourt went quiet in a way that felt physical. No one spoke. The woman's phone didn't wobble. The rideshare driver's mouth hung slightly open. Prescott stopped moving like someone had hit pause on him mid-step. For 2 full seconds, the only sound was the faint hiss of a pump and a car passing on Westbrook. Blackwell looked at Prescott, and the silence forced him to inhabit what he'd done. His viral quote sat there like a boomerang winding back. You don't set the standards out here, Blackwell said, repeating it slowly. Not mocking, documenting. Prescott's eyes snapped to her. You said that correct? Prescott's throat worked. Sarge, I was trying to maintain control. Blackwell's voice stayed even. Control isn't the standard, she said. Reason is, Rashad let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. His hands shook once, then stilled. The heat in his face cooled into something like exhaustion. He looked at the woman who'd spoken up first. Thank you, he said quietly. She nodded. You stayed calm, she answered. That mattered. Blackwell turned to the operations manager on speakerphone. Ma'am, she said we're going to take statements. We're also going to preserve the relevant footage and identify all involved personnel. Then she looked at the clerk. If your system has video of the forecourt, please preserve it as well. Someone from leadership will coordinate with you. Documentary anchor number 2, different category, and inside an active scene, security/dispatch logging, acknowledged plainly as the manager responded. We already logged the call at the desk when the clerk ran in. Source. Prescott's face tightened again because logs meant timelines, and timelines meant you couldn't simply narrate your way out. Blackwell asked Rashad, "Do you need medical aid?" Rashad rotated his wrist again. "Not right now," he said. "But I want it documented that force was used without explanation." Blackwell nodded. "It will be." The federal colleague stepped closer, voice firm, but controlled. "We're going to notify our leadership," he said. "We'll cooperate with your internal review." Prescott tried to cut in. He was... Blackwell held up a hand. "Nathan, stop," she said. "You're done talking to him." She turned, slightly addressing Prescott like a subordinate and a liability at the same time. "You are relieved from this call. Wait by my unit." Prescott's eyes flashed. "Sarge." Now Blackwell said, and the word left no room. Prescott walked away, stiff-backed hands clenched. The crowd watched him go without cheering, without insults, just with the quiet pressure of people who'd seen something and refused to unsee it. The operations manager's voice softened a notch. "Mr. Adams," she said through the speakerphone, "I'm sorry this happened on our property." Rashad closed his eyes briefly, his lips pressed together like he was holding back the kind of anger that would take too much energy to release. When he opened them, he nodded once. "Thank you," he said. "I need to finish my work." Blackwell stepped closer to him. "I'm going to get your statement," she said. "Then you can go." She glanced at the bystanders. "If anyone recorded, she said you're not required to give it. But if you're willing, it could help. You can speak to my lieutenant later." The woman with the nozzle lowered her phone for the first time. "I'll share it," she said. He didn't do anything. The rideshare driver nodded. "Same," he said. "You can hear what he said about standards." Prescott stood by the unit staring at the ground. His earlier confidence had drained into something smaller, something resentful. He looked up once at the witness circle and saw no fear, only record-keeping. In the days that followed, institutional backbone moved not like a movie, like an organization protecting itself from risk and correcting an exposed failure. A watch commander reviewed the body camera footage and flagged the moment cuffs appeared without a stated reason. A city risk manager was looped in because the incident happened on a public-facing commercial property with multiple witnesses. The department's internal leadership contacted the gas station's operations manager for the preserved video, and the clerk's recorded call log established exactly when help was requested and how the scene had already escalated before supervision arrived. Rashad's agency leadership did what it was supposed to. They documented the interruption to duty, requested all available records, and coordinated through proper channels without theatrics. They didn't threaten, they didn't posture, they simply insisted that the facts remain intact. Prescott attempted to frame it as a misunderstanding, leaning on the old language suspicious behavior officer safety attitude. But the narrative couldn't hold because it wasn't just Rashad's word. It was Prescott's own voice, threatening concrete. It was the calm witness narration. It was the timing. Rashad returned to the same gas station once weeks later, not because he needed to prove anything, but because life doesn't pause for trauma. The clerk recognized him and nodded a small respectful acknowledgement. The woman who'd recorded wasn't there, but the memory was the moment strangers chose solidarity over silence. The department did not announce fireworks. That's not how these things usually end. But behind closed doors, steps happened. Prescott was placed on administrative restriction pending review, limited field contact, while supervisors evaluated his decision-making under pressure. He was required to attend remedial de-escalation coaching and underwent a performance review focused on articulating reasons for detention and avoiding escalation based on tone. The department issued a written acknowledgement to Rashad that the interaction did not meet standards, that he had not been lawfully detained based on the facts available in the moment, and that his cooperation and calm demeanor were noted. Then came the civil side, slow, procedural, and heavy. Rashad's counsel pushed for record statements and accountability measures that went beyond a private apology. The city's legal team moved carefully because the footage was clean, because the witnesses were steady, because the logs were unforgiving. The resolution did not come as a public spectacle. It came as a quiet settlement that included a written apology and an operational update training emphasis. Supervisor response protocols and documentation expectations tightened in plain language. Rashad didn't celebrate. He didn't gloat. He kept working. But the win was real because it was earned, because it was collective, and because it changed the paper trail and the behavior exactly where power hides when it thinks nobody is watching. On an ordinary afternoon at a gas station in Back Bay, a man with a key fob was treated like a suspect, until strangers formed a circle and a sergeant demanded a reason instead of a feeling. The standards Prescott tried to claim as personal property turned out to belong to the record. First, when a public authority figure starts giving commands without stating a reason, keep your hands visible and use simple, repeatable phrases like, "Am I free to leave?" and "Please state the reason," because clarity creates a clean record. Next, request a supervisor early and say it out loud in a calm voice, since it signals you want accountability without escalating the scene. Then if you're a witness, narrate calmly, "He's not resisting. He asked why you didn't explain," because neutral description can puncture a false story in real time. After that, if you can safely record, hold your phone steady and avoid shouting. Since shaky chaos helps the person with power claim disorder, as an excuse, finally write down names, times, and what was said as soon as you're safe, and seek appropriate counsel or organizational support, because consequences usually come through documentation and institutional pathways, not instant dramatic moments. Some elements are selectively fictionalized for education.